Hello, career thought leaders. It's good to see you here today. And we are going to be talking about how you know what recruiters are doing, some of the sources that you can follow that I've been following for a while. And we're going to talk about, yes, how they're sourcing clients, but some of the aspects we need to know before we dive too deep into that. So if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe. We're really close to 1,500 subscribers. So we'd love to see you subscribe there as well. You get notified when we go live. You also get notified when we post some of the recap videos. So hello, it's good to see all of you. I see that you're chatting in the comments. And I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for hanging on here for a minute as we thought we were live, but it turns out we weren't live. So we're live now, and we're glad that you're here. So we are talking about sourcing. Sourcing is when recruiters go out and find candidates. Now, I find that when I hear people talk about that who aren't recruiters, or sometimes even recruiters, we tend to kind of get a little over focus on keyword search. They're searching for candidates. That's true. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that they're doing that. But they're also building communities so that they have referral sources. We know they love referrals, right? Everybody loves referrals. Employees, hiring managers, recruiters, they all love referrals. So they're building communities. And, in the way back, they would have been building meetup groups where they would have a group of professionals get together. They would maybe facilitate or just honestly offer the administrative background support so that a group of people in the industry could get together. Now they're doing that online. And so they're building community. They're not just using keyword search. And that's going to be important when we talk about the different ways that they're sourcing. I might talk about Facebook and you're going, oh, Marie, no one's keyword searching Facebook. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking more this aspect of building community, because that's another big way to source candidates or clients if you're in business. It's another great way to source candidates. In fact, they might use that even more than keyword searching because it creates a more consistent, sustainable community to pull referrals from. So we're going to talk about those things. The other thing that's really important to go into is what people see as a credible source of hire. And this was one of the most surprising things to me in 2015 when I went to my first recruiter conference, to hear them talk about what they saw as the best source of hire. So we're going to look at this most recent data from Employ. Used to be JobVite. The Employ took over JobVite. So now all of their stuff is branded as Employ. But I've been watching these studies since 2015. And what we're seeing here is the source of hire data. So where they see the best source of hire is. And this surprised me so much when I went to that conference and they were talking about this, the best source of hire being job boards. Now, you always have to think about the level of candidate that someone might be recruiting. This is actually a pretty broad brush that Employ. They've got 1,200 recruiters that they're surveying. They've got a lot of companies, right? It's a big applicant tracking system, talent management system that is used by a lot of companies. So we don't want to get and discount it right away and say, oh, not my level, right? Not my clients. We want to really look at this and think about this. So job boards for an executive may look different than job boards for a lower level person, but you've got the Association of Executive Search Consultants. You've got places that are job boards for executives just as well as other places. So it's really important to think about all the different things that these might mean for your clients and to not, discount it too quickly. You see their career website in there as well, internal hires, employee referrals. I'm actually surprised that that's so low compared to some of the other data that we see about referrals. But, it's just good to get many sources of data and to kind of put them all together and consider that. Victoria, hopefully that's a little bit bigger for you. You got job boards, social media, employee referrals, internal hires, career websites as kind of the top areas there. So that's where they're seeing the best candidates. Now, what this means for us is we want to be careful about how we structure job search strategy. So although our one of our classes is called a hidden job market coach, we teach a balanced job search, that you want to be paying attention to whatever job boards means in your industry, your level, because that's silly to miss out on things that are being posted that are a good fit for you. And they can also give you ideas of other companies to follow, what's going on in the market. There's many other reasons to do that. Of course, we know that social media, employee referrals, and even internal hires can be great reasons to network. And even when we do apply to a job board, that being networked in or being the referred candidate can be a great perk and get us above the fold, if you will, rise us out of the pile. So networking is still the most important job search tactic, but we want to make sure we're not overdoing it in our messaging, that people still need to understand the full breadth of a job search and make sure they're taking advantage of all those opportunities. Okay, so that's one of the most important things. The other thing about sourcing, remember, it's not just about keyword search. There are a lot of other ways that they're sourcing and using online tools. So there's not very much data on it, but one of the things that I see recruiters talking about in their languages is really about these communities. And we're going to look at the newest data for social media job search. And it's unfortunately just doesn't match at all with the previous way that they were asking the questions, but we'll look at it anyways. But that some of the things that don't show up on these profiles, because they're not really social media, but they are things like Reddit and Discord and Slack. And these are the new age meetup groups where a community of people from an industry have decided to get together and create some kind of group. And recruiters find those groups or create those groups just so that they can build these pools of candidates. So you've got Reddit threads that are on specific industry conversations where there's a group of people interacting. You bet that there's recruiters there hanging out. You've got Slack channels that are industry specific where people don't necessarily have to be, it's not company specific, but it's industry specific. And there's people having conversations there. Same thing with Discord. Discord and Slack are very similar, right? So our candidates have the opportunity to find and join these communities where they can be part of the conversation. They're not going to get found necessarily, but if they're part of the conversation and they're engaging with the other people there, they are going to build relationships with the industry who might refer them, as well as the recruiters and hiring managers who are hanging out in those groups as well. So those don't show up on the studies, but they're still very important for us to realize that's part of what we mean when we talk about job search, is knowing where your audience is, where your community is, and going there and finding them. And that's what we want to help people do. We want to make sure that we're not being so narrow focused that we don't realize there are so many more opportunities than just even social media, and particularly one social media that we might put above the rest. And which is, it's good. We'll look at the data. It's good to put it above the rest, but it isn't the only. And sometimes it can be a little crowded. So we're going to look at some other things today as well. And of course, I'm talking about LinkedIn. All right, so let's look at this data here also in the employee study about the different types of social media. And like I said, this is the data from 2023, and unfortunately it doesn't line up with the way they've asked the question before at all. We'll look at the older data too. So 41% now say they're using LinkedIn, which is just crazy different than what we've seen in the past. I don't know how they asked the question so much differently, or what happened here. But this right here is 2023 data. Everything I'm showing you from Employ right now is 2023 data. That's their latest study that they did, was kind of late 2023. So 41% using LinkedIn, 20% using Facebook, and then you've got Twitter, Instagram, etc. So The numbers are way weird, but you still get those as your top fourth. YouTube coming in as number 5, and then TikTok holding a little bit of space for there. Yeah, data apps for sourcing. I've got an article on that. I don't know if it would be that easy for me to find, but yes, there are recruiters talking about how they're using data apps for sourcing. So here's one of the things to think about with sourcing. It doesn't have to do with the level of your client or the age of your client. It has to do with the recruiter. And the JobVite study from 2021 showed how recruiter age and the way that they recruit aligns, but it's not surprising, right? If a younger recruiter, they're going to be using TikTok, Instagram, maybe even dating apps, whereas the older recruiters are going to be using LinkedIn and Facebook. So it's not rocket science, but sometimes we think, oh, I'm working with an executive, nobody's going to recruit them on these channels. It's not necessarily true. You got to think about industry and what that recruiter looks like, not necessarily just what your client looks like. So encourage them to go out there and do the research, see who's engaged in communities and what's going on there. Now, I talked to some tech recruiters who recruit for mid to upper level positions, typically not C-suite, but we're talking technical leadership roles who use Facebook groups to recruit from. Why? Because Facebook groups are very active, they're very consistent, they have great communities, and they're quite private. So even if a group is public on Facebook, everything that's said in there is private and people can engage in there in private. So it is happening, but just not the way that you're thinking. Maybe it's happening more in that community framework of, hey, I'm going to build this group so that I can engage the industry. Yeah, crazy numbers. So I can provide you the link to the study. I'll drop that in the chat. You can also just search for employee 2023 recruiter study, but I'll drop the link in there as well. It's not like you can't go straight to the study. You have to put in your email and those types of things, Cheryl. So actually, I'll just send you the PDF. If you drop a note in the chat, I will send you the PDF via LinkedIn Messenger. So Cheryl, I'll do that for you, and anyone else that wants it, just drop a link in the chat or in YouTube comments, and I can send you the PDF directly. Okay, so that's the data that we have from 2023. And of course, if you're here, you probably saw my post on LinkedIn with the data from before 2023. So I've been tracking this since 2015. That was the first time I ever saw the JobVite, or now it's Employ research. And this was the data over the last 6-7 years. Like I said, the new data just doesn't line up with it at all, having LinkedIn at 40%. So I haven't put that on the graph because it will mess up it all. So I've got to figure out what their numbers were and if there's any way I can kind of translate it to the same kind of numbers they were asking about here. But whenever you see someone claiming that 90% of recruiters use LinkedIn, that's from the way back, people. That's from 2015. And even JobVite still has it in some articles on their website, but it's from 2015 that data was the 90% of recruiters are using LinkedIn. That is 2015 data. So yes, LinkedIn is important. Yes, people are using it, but it is important to recognize that it is not it's not the panacea that we think it is, right? It's not going to solve everything. One, because it's busy. Two, because your clients' coworkers are not there on a regular basis. There's not normal people for them to network with on a regular basis on LinkedIn. And yes, recruiters are using it, but maybe not to the extent that you're thinking if you're still quoting that 2015 data about 90% of recruiters using it. And I know a lot of people say, well, for executive roles, they're using LinkedIn. Well, that depends on how you define executives. I don't know very many CEOs, COOs, C-level people who are active on LinkedIn. So if I'm a recruiter, am I really trying to get through those people on LinkedIn when they're not even active there? Probably not. I'm using networking to get to those people. I'm using executive networks, executive groups, executive ways of connecting. I'm probably not trying to connect with them on LinkedIn. And I know that's not what many people think when they think about executive, but I would just be a little bit careful about the ways that we share and the things that we talk about when we do that. So we know social media is a big deal, and that they're using social media, but obviously they're searching in other ways as well, and that's important for us to recognize. Then these are some of the tools that we want to be aware of, because these tools are really popping now, especially that we've got AI. So this is Findem. I've been talking about Findem since like 2018, 2019, whenever they launched. And now they've got AI, but it makes it even better, faster, stronger, whatever you want to say, right? But the idea of this is that you can match. So you search across all your hiring channels. So this is not just looking at social media, even. It's looking at anything where there's public data about people, where I might be able to find my product designer, and I can go in and I can find a search, and I can search across the web to find a candidate. Very similarly, we've also been talking about Seek Out. Seek Out is very similar to Findem. I'm hoping we're going to get a little Findem demo in our Tech Jam event that starts in a couple of weeks on the 16th. So keep an eye out for that. Hopefully we're going to get a little Findem demo and be able to ask questions of some of the recruiters that actually use the software in a few weeks. But those are the systems that are going out and finding people across the web. So you've got communities like Reddit, Discord, StreamYard, or not StreamYard, that's the platform I'm on, Slack. You've got those communities that people are building, Facebook groups. Then you've got social media where they're building communities and doing searches like LinkedIn, Twitter. Twitter just rolled out a new, and I'm sorry, I just always say Twitter. I know it's X, but I just can't. That they've got a new job board there as well. So those are things just for your clients to check out and understand if it is right for their industry or not. There's a lot of stuff still going on X for the tech field. So it's just important for them to do the research and check that out. And really, that's what we started doing, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. We launched our social media for job search strategist class. And what this does is it just gives you the tools to help your client do the research. Where's my companies? Where are my communities? How can I plug into those communities? And broadening our understanding of social media doesn't mean you have to have an account on X to do this, but you now know how it works enough to be able to help people create lists, do the things that make it, and Twitter is actually one of the easiest to create a list, follow people, engage with a community right there on the platform. And then, of course, you can find Facebook groups, you can find the other types of channels, but you have to think about it a little bit bigger and kind of get out of the LinkedIn rut. You can still do LinkedIn. None of these are going to replace it. And of course, you don't have to do everything. It's all about figuring out and doing the research around where are your clients' actual communities at and how do you connect with them. So we've got the social media, we've got the communities like Discord, Slack. They're not really social media. And I guess Reddit is social media, but it's a little bit different than some of these other platforms. And it never shows up on the things that they're asking about because it just isn't something that shows up on the list. And then, of course, you've got these systems like Findem and Seek Out that are going out there and searching the entire web for our clients, for their avatar, if you will, for someone like them, so that they can bring them into the fold. So when you're thinking about how to help your clients access that, yes, you want to have the profiles set up so that they can get found if people are searching, but that's like just scratching the surface. You also want to help them find and engage in these communities where either people who could refer them are or where the recruiters are. And, I know some of you have heard this story before, but I always think about, my husband's in engines, and it doesn't surprise me now, but it surprised me so much the first time that he talked about this Facebook group where there's a bunch of engine technicians that go in on a regular basis and have conversation about which engines they like, which engines they don't like. And it's become this community that not only gives information and market data, but also referrals when things need to get done, or perhaps when a job search needs to happen. So it's going to happen in different places than they might imagine. And that's our role, is to help them explore and find those communities where they might be able to unlock some doors that aren't being knocked on by everyone else who's trying to get found on LinkedIn. So I hope that was helpful. If you're interested in joining the social media job search strategist class, let me know if you have any questions. Drop me a link. We've got a little discount code we can send you if you drop me a link on that. And that one starts on July 10th, and we'd love to have you there as well. So excellent. Oh, see lots of you getting the PDFs. Awesome. Thank you. I'll send that to you. Excellent. Good to see you, Jessica and Victoria. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget that, again, if you want to go back and watch things later, they're really easy to find on YouTube. So you can go there and subscribe, drop us a comment, and we would appreciate that very much. All right, y'all, I'm headed to the plane, going to the National Career Development Association conference. I will see you back here to talk about the now, the new, and the next in careers next Tuesday. Thank you, everyone.